Hey y'all, welcome to the Coyote Traffic School podcast. On location here, and this is actually my first fur shed, which is honestly, and I recognize it's a pretty nice fur shed to be sure. I mean, it's bigger than my first shed now, but I'll get to that in just a minute. I know I'm late on this episode, and I apologize. So I had a really awesome interview with Lauren Stallsmith of Circle S Leather, and we talked for over an hour, and I was super pumped about publishing that episode and getting it out to y'all and hearing about what he does. He's a mainly brain tanner, but also does bark tanning, and we talked about tanning, trapping. He got into tanning through trapping, but my recording app perfectly recorded all my audio, but I got none of Lauren's audio, and that was soul crushing, especially spending so much time on the person. I know, everybody's busy, everybody's got a lot going on, and he just gave me over an hour of his time, which I greatly appreciated. And then I screwed it up and didn't have a backup, which I'm working on that now. In the meantime, that's why this episode is late, and I'm on location here, so I'm actually spending the weekend. It's Memorial Day weekend if you're watching this in the future. It's Memorial Day weekend, so I'm back home with the family, and this is actually, like I said, my very first fur shed outside behind my grandmother's house. So this was my granddad's old workshop, and he passed away years ago, and it kind of, I started trapping when I was in high school, and so it was just, falling apart. It was just junk storage in there. And so I actually, one summer, I think I was actually, I can't remember if I was in high school or college now. Anyway, one summer I fixed it up, cleaned it out, had to replace all these boards, most of the wall all the way around, had to replace the floor in there. It's got some nice, it's got a jigsaw and a table saw, and I mean, it's like 20 by 20. It's a really nice large building. It's kind of neat because the inside's just like pine wood rafters. I mean, it's old school. It's been there a while, but that was my summer project. And then I did a bunch of fleshing and trap modification, and just spending a bunch of time in here. It was a lot of fun. Not those moose antlers aren't mine, but a buddy of mine, they were sitting out in his yard. His dog was chewing on them, and I said, "Man, those would go perfect on the fur shed, And so I got those, and it's just ramshackle. It needs a lot of love. I had it looking nice. I painted it and everything when I'll throw a picture up here of my first season when I've got everything laid out on the shed. But it was fun. The one thing, it's at my grandmother's house, and she's been widowed twice, so she's doesn't have a husband to keep up with everything. And man, as I've figured out, it's being a homeowner, you got your plate full just keeping up with your own house, much less keeping up with everything else. So we try to get around and help her out and keep things cleaned up as much as we can. But there's never a shortage of work to do. So, and she'd kill me if she knew I was posting this. But I thought, being as how where I was, and this would be a neat little thing to do. So, in lieu of not having the interview, and I'm going to try to get Lauren back on. I don't want to bug him. Like I said, he took over an hour out of his time. It was really neat. The one takeaway from me was, this guy he brain tans for a living, basically. He brain tans deer and elk hides, and bark tans some too, and then sells them to people that make stuff out of them. Reenactors and things, and that's just, and he's been doing it for like 16 years. He's been doing it a long time, and so he got started in it early. But it just reiterates in my mind, even now with the internet and the reach that we have, there's so many people that I see that are doing really cool, neat things, supporting themselves, and they don't have a typical 9-to-5 job that we think of. And so I say that to young and old alike, that if there's something that you're interested in, man, and there's never been a better time, I guess, to go after, and that's what I'm trying to do, And I haven't reached there. I'm gonna be upfront and honest, 100%. I haven't reached there as in being able to quit my 9 to 5 job. But I mean, I was chatting with somebody today and sold a bag today, one of my short liner bags, to a guy in Canada. That's man, that's pretty awesome, just to be able to have that communication. And just with the flip of my phone, I'm sitting here talking to a guy 1,000 miles away, and sold something to him. He's been watching me, he's been following what I'm doing, and he liked it enough to to pay me money. So man, there's a lot of opportunity out there, and I am trying to take advantage and capitalize on that. And I hope some of you are as well too. Like I said, there's ample opportunities now. It takes a lot of hard work, a lot of grit, and a lot of effort, and a lot of time too. As I'm finding out, there's not a lot of overnight. Everybody looks like an overnight success because a lot of people don't see. You don't necessarily get noticed until you are a success, and then everybody's like, well, where'd you come from? All of a sudden, you're an overnight success. Well, I've been working on this for 10 years. I've devoted my whole life savings. And so anyway, that's a side tangent, but that does take us into another thing. It is Memorial Day weekend, and we wouldn't have the opportunities that we do have without those that have given all for our country and our freedoms. And so I do want to honor that, and I deeply appreciate any of y'all that have served our country, and or have family that have. I've got my grandfathers served. One of my grandfathers served in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam, and he's still living. He'll be 95 this year, and that's pretty awesome. And I'm deeply, very proud of him and his service, and I'm proud of each and every one of the people that have given up their life, so to speak, to serve our country. And I appreciate that. Not so to speak, the ones definitely that have given their life for our country, but then those that just are active duty and military, served there 4 years or did a career. It's those ladies and gentlemen give a lot, and their families give a lot, and I appreciate that. And so I just wanted to acknowledge, and without those people laying the groundwork and being out there on the front lines fighting and dying for our freedoms, I wouldn't be able to sell a guy from Canada a bag. I wouldn't be able to post this online and get thousands of people that listen and watch. And so thank you. If you have served, if you got family that served, and if you've got anybody that has given their life, I deeply and from the bottom of my heart appreciate that. Appreciate everyone out there that has served our country. So outside of that, I want to touch on a few things that have just been kind of rolling around in my mind lately. I've seen some posts of, I don't know if you've been following or not, but New York City there's been a bill, I guess, to ban the sale, I guess. Trying to get, whether it's S-E-L-L or S-A-L-E, the sale of fur and fur products. And apparently, from what I've seen, there's been a pretty good bit of opposition from the, apparently there's a lot of people in the fur district that make their living in New York from selling fur-related items, making fur-related items. And so that bill hasn't become a pushover bill, I guess, I would expect in New York City, in the belly of the beast, what we would all, I think, consider an anti-stronghold. And so that's been refreshing, and that's been awesome to see. I guess the one thing, and there's been a whole slew of bills, and a lot of them have failed, thankfully, but I noticed apparently there's a bill in California that is trying to stop the harvest of bobcats. And one of the arguments was that they're only used for fur. And so it's, I I hate when the way it's portrayed and the way it's kind of taken, but kind of like a waste, I guess, so to speak. That they're only used for fur. You know, it seems like you get a almost a free pass. It's meets a lot less opposition if you're eating something. You know, everybody's cool with you killed that. Are you gonna eat it? Yeah, I am gonna eat it. Well, all right, more power to you. Good on you. People don't see the same with our fur harvest, you know, and that's one reason that I've kind of taken to, and one thing I want to work on this summer is I'm going to do some more recipe videos. I got some beaver, I got some bobcat in the freezer, to save and to kind of put that out there that, hey, you know what, we as trappers can and do utilize this as not just a fur resource, but as a meat resource, you know. And then another thing that I've seen, I follow a couple of folks on Instagram. One is We Are Fur, and you know they comment and post, keep me updated, honestly, through their posts on what's going on with the New York City fur ban. And one thing that they push a lot, and that I think is a very I think it's going to help. It will help the fur industry and will help us if we can accurately and you know, consistently portray the message is that you know, there's a lot more people that are kind of getting down on plastics and you know how plastics pollute, they don't biodegrade and all this, and well, fur is biodegradable, fur is natural, fur is something that can be passed down and you know, it's not as likely to get thrown out because it's more expensive. And that's kind of the angle that they come at with things, and I think it seems to me anyway that is getting some attention and traction with the younger crowd, you know, millennial crowd, people that are environmentally conscious. I think that is catching some attention, and so I think that's something that we don't always, you know, that's something that's never really been in my mind as a justification. Not that it's a slippery slope, you know, and that's something that I think we all hate to do, is try to be justifying what we're doing. But in the end, that is kind of what we wind up doing, you know. And so that, you know, just all the opposition, and I don't think a lot of the opposition this year it's been aimed at the fur industry, at trappers. But I think it's the first step in an agenda, and I think trappers in the fur industry is seen as an easy target because you know it's easier to win people over to that side, showing an animal in a live or in a foothold trap versus showing a hunter with a deer that they killed but that they're going to eat. Because like I said, it's you know, people rationalize that better. Hey, he's going to eat that deer, so that's okay. But this guy that worked hard and took extra precautions to trap this fur-bearing animal legally, ethically, going over and above with laminated traps, you know, whatever that we do as trappers, it's still, it's you know, what do people see? They see the coyote in the trap, or the ridiculous pictures online that you know, animals without feet and things, and they don't see the reality. But those are easier to win from an emotional standpoint. And so man, I kind of got off chasing a rabbit there, but I guess I just say all that to say that from my perspective, and it's something, you know, I've gotten more conscious about it. You know, this year I posted a couple of catch pictures of me. Well, I guess I would say the only catch picture that I posted this year with me with a coyote was in October when I went to Ohio and trapped, and you know, I got a couple of comments, and so I got thinking about it, and so I changed, And realistically, with my platform, I guess it does the catch pictures, maybe give me a little bit of legitimacy. Hey, this guy can catch a coyote. Here's a picture of him with a coyote. But that's not my aim. My aim is to try to help people learn how to trap and show how effective it is. And so, just trying to think, and it's not as easy, honestly. It's a lot easier to take a picture of a coyote in a trap and hey, there's an awesome post. But to step back and say, well, what could I post about this that would help somebody to learn how I caught this coyote, or how I made this remake to try to catch another gray fox. It's just, man, there's such a spotlight. I've talked about this before, but the public perception, we're already at a disadvantage, I guess you could say. And so the more that we can do to just be cautious. And another thing that got me thinking on this was I was just kind of surfing around. Well, let me step back a couple steps. So a couple weeks ago, I posted I got a letter from Georgia DNR, and it was about nuisance trapping. And the DNR was just clarifying that it had come to their attention, DNR, Department of Natural Resources, that it had come to their attention that it was kind of commonly understood that if you had a trapping license, a nuisance trapping license, if you were a licensed nuisance trapper, that you could trap fur bearers out of season for predation purposes. So, deer, quail, turkeys, whatever. And so they were clarifying that that's not just a blanket allowance, that in order to trap fur bearers out of season, the landowner needs to have a management plan, a bona fide management plan, is what they said, that is approved by the state. Now, of course, coyotes can be trapped year-round, so that coyotes and beavers, so that is not an issue. And I hope that trapping noise, I've got my lapel mic on, I hope that traffic noise is, it didn't used to be this much traffic when I was growing up, man. This place has grown a lot. But, coyotes in Georgia, not regulated. They can be trapped year-round, so that's not an issue. But in targeting, for wildlife management, a landowner, and the landowner could be issued a permit, and then if he wanted to hire somebody, to trap on his behalf, he could. And that's definitely, that's not something that I've done a lot of, just because I haven't had a lot of people. I'm not a fan of summertime trapping unless somebody's paying me, and you have to find the right folks that are willing to pay for something like that. But I made a post about that because I think you'd asked 100 trappers 2 years ago if you had a nuisance license, if you could trap, at the landowner's request. Absolutely, go for it. And so definitely that's a change. And overall, I think it was kind of a surprise, but not anything outlandish. But there were a couple of people that were just kind of outraged, so to speak, that this is my land. I should be able to do what I want. Why do I have to get permission, to do what I want? And while I kind of see that argument, we also got to recognize that one of the great things about the U.S. of A. is that our wildlife is not owned by anyone. It's managed by the government on behalf of the people. And so, just because I own 400 acres, which I don't, hypothetically, I wish I did, just because I own 400 acres don't mean I can go out there and, kill whatever I want to. I kind of broached it with some folks that, that's no different than deer season. You can't shoot deer out of season unless you get a permit, regardless of what they're doing. That's no different than any other regulations. And I think it's long term. I think it's beneficial to trappers because it's just another easy thing that somebody can say, hey, these guys are out here just wantonly killing whatever, and because it needs to be done so there'll be more deer and turkeys. And without a biologist, somebody that's trained, looking and saying, hey, yes, you're doing, because trapping is often kind of seen as or I think people think of it as the silver bullet, and it's not. There's so much more that goes into wildlife management, and to produce more deer, bigger deer, more turkeys, quail, whatever. And so I think personally, I feel like that's beneficial as a whole for trappers and for our wildlife management agencies. That, hey, we're not just allowing these people to go and harvest wherever they want and not getting any use out of it too. Because to me, that's the crutch of doing what we do and being able to do what we do, is that we do get some use out of it. We can make use of the furs. If you're trapping in the summertime, you're not making use of the furs. You're not doing anything but reducing the population. And if there's not other things that are going on in conjunction with that, you may not even be, you may not be achieving the results that you're after to begin with. So, I'm still here. I'm just trying to think bad about that, kind of getting off on a tangent and struggling to bring it back in line. But anyway, I just golly, where was I going with that? Oh, all right. So, and then just doing a quick Google search on coyote trapping questions, something like that, and I pulled up, on the first page there was a website called Trap Free Montana. And when I first saw it, I was kind of thinking like free trappers. There are several state trapping associations that are called free trappers. And so that's kind of what I thought it was. But it's people that are against trapping. And they got frequently asked questions. And basically, they would take every argument that we had. And it's not, I guess this gets done in all subjects and all topics, but they basically took they posed it as questions, frequently asked questions, but they asked it as if it was something that they heard, you heard from a trapper. So, well, isn't trapping to help reduce population, reduce disease efforts, or aren't traps, can't you set traps, and these are, I'm wording them terribly, trying to get you this, can't you set traps in a way that target specific animals? And they were rebutting these, and no, you can't target, you can't set traps in a way that target specific animals, and giving crazy statistics about each year they talked about getter guns in Montana, and how 50,000 a year are set, 500,000. It was outlandish. I think it was maybe 50,000 a year are still set, even though they're outlawed. So they're killing at least 50,000 animals. It's like, man, that's ridiculous. And talking about how fencing and there's all kinds of these alternatives to prevent predation of livestock. That trapping is not needed and is outdated, antiquated, and there again, it just reinforced to me how careful we've got to be to guard and I got a lot of feedback that trapping is a right. On a podcast that I did here a while back, I said trapping is a privilege, not a right, and it can be taken away from us. And I had several people comment back that trapping is a right, and there are some, I can't remember if it's in the Georgia Constitution, but there are some state constitutions where they've got some kind of fishing game, hunting and fishing amendment or something like that. Some of them do include trapping, but my rebuttal to that is, the Second Amendment is in the U.S. Constitution, not just in a state constitution, and it still gets questioned and analyzed and critiqued and tried to removed every year. So I don't know, it just reinforced in me how careful we've got to be, how how we've got to, just like they're trying to put their own twist and their own spin and twist our words and twist the science and data that back up what we're doing. And we've got to be careful about trying to put out there and promote how we're doing and what we're doing in a responsible way, and how we're using the resource. And we're not just shoot, shovel, and shut up, but we're using this resource, and it's a renewable resource, and it's a biodegradable resource. It's something that can be passed along, and treasured as an heirloom. Your grandmother's mink jacket versus nobody's gonna get real sentimental about a fake fur jacket, and I don't know. I guess just keep an open mind and not get so ingrained and not get so focused on, well, I shouldn't have to mind what I say, or I shouldn't have to be careful about what I say. We shouldn't have to censor our posts and this and that. And yeah, we shouldn't have to, but we really should. One thing that comes to mind is, this past trapping season, I had somebody, I made a post on Instagram, and somebody in the comments tagged PETA in the comments. And man, I wish I could have figured it. I didn't. I knew who it was, but I deleted the comment. But please, if you're listening, please don't ever tag PETA in any of my posts. But that's to me, in my opinion, that's foolish to draw unnecessary, undue attention. And I mean, the way that I found out about it was, man, I started getting DMs and all kinds of just ridiculous comments about, killing my family and hoping I get trapped and skinned and all this. And man, I was just like, I get some of those to begin with, but I was just getting over the top. And I finally realized that somebody was thinking they were cute, and they tagged PETA in the comment and said something like, I'm not for PETA. I'm just I like to show them, what they don't want to see. And man, it's such a, if you did it, I guess I should quit being. That's a stupid thing to do, in my opinion. That's a stupid thing to do. We shouldn't draw unnecessary attention to what we do. We're already doing something. We know we're under additional scrutiny. Hey, let's use our brains, and let's just do it. Try to fly under the radar as much as we can. Let's make sure we're being active and trying to promote in a positive light and a beneficial light. Much as I hate to say it, I mean, just keep in mind this stuff can be taken away. Look at the states that only allow cage trapping, or don't allow any trapping. They're out there. So anyway, I'll wrap this up, and I apologize for the tardiness and kind of not having a super outline topic. Working on my summer workflow and podcast flow. As a reminder, be sure at the end of this month is when my short liner bags price is going up to $55 plus shipping. Right now they're still at $40. I was caught up, and then over the weekend I've got some more orders, which is awesome. I'm not complaining. I'm super pumped up, and it blows me away and humbles me that y'all are willing to shell out your hard-earned money to support what I'm doing here, trying to teach and encourage and pass on the art and tradition. And man, I'm getting eaten up by bugs, but I do want to say thanks to all y'all for your support. Appreciate all the bags, and if you haven't, be sure to go and get your order in, and I'll make it. I'm running probably about 2 days behind right now. Like I said, I was caught up, and then bam, got some more orders, which is awesome. But hey, enjoy the weekend, enjoy time with your family and friends and loved ones, and just don't forget why we get to celebrate, why we get to have the freedoms that we do, the reason that I can come to you and bring you value and come to you and talk about trapping or whatever else we talk about. You don't think we live in an awesome place? Why don't you ask North Korea how their selling things online is going, how their YouTube and Facebook lives are going, because what I understand, that's non-existent. So we're truly blessed, and as another podcast that I listen to always signs off, I think it's pretty fitting for today. Last but not least, God bless America.